pay him or me, and we can resolve your queries afterwards. So before we get into any of the technicalities of time of supply, let's think from a layman perspective, because we are quite used to thinking as a consultant or as GST experts. All of you guys might be GST experts here who will be working in GST. So let's think from a layman perspective, why this concept was introduced in GST per se. So first of all, let me tell you, the entire GST law has been picked up from various laws. They have been inspired by various laws nationally as well as internationally. So while doing so, time of supply is also a concept which has been adopted from certain European laws. So why this concept was introduced? So let's take a very simple example before we start with anything. Let's say there is an engineer who doesn't understand anything related to finance, and he's a guy who is providing services to various leading organizations. And let's say after providing his consultancy on 25th of March, on the day of lockdown, let's say, he decides that he'll be raising an invoice on one of his client. Now, while doing this, he raised an invoice of 25th of March. And since lockdown was there, since it's going on till now, his client was not able to pay him. Now, it's pretty obvious if you ask that engineer that when is the time when you will be paying your GST? It's pretty obvious that there is a possibility that he'll say it's a common sense, man. Means till the time I don't receive money, it's not my income. So obviously I'll not pay. Whereas on the other hand, consultants like us, the people who have studied GST or earlier laws, taxation laws, they'll say it's pretty clear. It's a common sense that since he has raised invoice on 25th of March, that will be the point of time when his tax becomes due, or that is the taxable event, date on which tax needs to be considered as levied. Now, these are two disparities. So one layman is thinking from his common understanding, applying his common sense that till the time I don't receive money, I'll not discharge liability. On the other hand, we experts might say it's pretty obvious that the moment you raise an invoice on the basis of accrual concept, the income has been booked and tax has to be discharged. So considering such disparities, people might think on the basis of their own understanding, on the basis of their own common sense. And as you all know, the most uncommon thing in this world is the common sense. So considering that, time of supply is a specific provision which has been introduced. Now, if we talk about what exactly time of supply is, time of supply is. So basically time of supply is recognizing time of taxable event. So in any law, you take GST or any of the earlier laws, it's pretty important to recognize a time when tax will be levied and it needs to be discharged. So what's the taxable event? So time of supply is a concept, a mechanism which has been introduced in GST law, which is typically used to determine a date on which we can say a goods or service has been supplied. As you all know, the most important concept in GST law is supply. The moment we say that something has been supplied, we can say that GST will be applicable on it, considering other provisions of GST law. So time of supply is a concept which specifically determines the date on which we can say a good or a commodity or a service has been supplied to the ultimate customer. So it helps us to identify the due date. For example, if I say, considering the time of supply provisions, in the same example of that engineer, let's presume without understanding any of the technicalities, as per time of supply provisions, the date of raising invoice is the time of supply. So he has raised invoice on 25th of March. So 25th March is the date on which we can say that that service has been supplied. The moment we say that 25th March is the date on which service has been supplied, we need to understand that the tax which is payable on that invoice will be discharged along with the return, GST return for the month of March. So considering some of the basic provisions, we can very well say that since time of supply is in March, the liability pertaining to that transaction will be discharged along with March return on 20th of April. Let's say 20th of April is the due date as of now. So considering that time of supply is critical to determine the date on which we can say a particular commodity, service or goods have been supplied to the ultimate consumer. And it's pretty obvious the moment we say that 25th March is the time of supply, the rate, the GST rate which is applicable on that date will be final rate. So that rate will be applicable. So let's say on 25th of March, the GST rate on that particular engineering services was 18%. And predominantly afterwards, the GST rate on engineering services got revised to 28%, let's say in April. And since time of supply is 25th of March, the liability will be payable along with March return at the rate of 18%. So what we can say is that time of supply determines the date and the rate at which tax becomes payable. So I hope everyone is clear till this point of time. Next is another basis which we can consider why time of supply concept has been introduced. So to get a feel of that, we need to have a look at certain pre-GST regime taxation laws. Now, as you all know, before GST, before July 2017, predominantly there were three important taxes, which we can say as far as indirect taxes are concerned, central excise was there, which was payable on manufacture of goods. Now, typically, if you think about central excise, the time of taxation or time of supply or point of taxation was date of removal of excisable goods. In excise law, whenever a particular manufactured commodity was removed from the factory, we used to say that that is the point of time when central excise duty is payable. Similarly, if you take example of VAT or CST, typically in all the sales tax laws, the time of supply or time of taxation was actual sale of goods. So basically date of raising invoice. Now this is a concept which most of the state level VAT authorities or VAT practitioners are used to. Whereas on the other hand, if you think about service tax, in service tax law, there was a similar concept like time of supply. There were point of taxation rules. Now in services, typically the rules used to say that on a large basis, that date of receipt of payment, the moment you receive the consideration for a service, or date of raising invoice, whichever is earlier, that was the time of taxation, or that was the point of taxation. So now if you look at all these three major taxes were subsumed in GST. So basically excise, service tax, VAT, all these three taxes were subsumed, and all the three taxes were having different logics of taxing a particular event, on which date a particular transaction should be taxed under a particular taxation law. So to manage, or rather to get away with this disparity of these three laws, it was necessary that a particular provision needs to be introduced, which will be applicable to goods, to services equally. So considering that time of supply has been introduced. Now, if you see, since time of supply is it's quite similar to point of taxation in service tax law, most of the service tax practitioners are already used to it. However, if you take an example of normal VAT authorities, the state level VAT authorities, they have been used to practicing or working in VAT law, wherein the time of taxation or point of taxation was date of raising invoice. So initially, when GST was introduced, 90% of the departmental authorities were also not able to cope up with this new logic. So while practicing in GST or while studying GST, it is quite important to understand that what exactly the concept of time of supply is, and in GST law, when can we say that a particular supply event becomes taxable, which is the date on which it becomes taxable, so that we can decide when it is payable and at what rate it is payable. I feel this shall sum up what exactly time of supply is. I hope everybody is clear about it. So this was the overall overview of what exactly time of supply is. So to sum up, time of supply is exactly a provision which helps us to identify when a particular transaction is taxable in GST law, so that we can decide on the due date on which GST needs to be paid. Now, if we typically look at the transactional provisions in GST law, so in GST law, basically there are two sections, section 12 and section 13 of the CGST Act. So typically I have not considered, or I have not tried to explain section wise, because that will be quite complicated. To make it quite easy and simpler, what I have done is that I have classified it into two buckets. I have made two buckets. One is time of supply provisions related to forward charge mechanism, and the another one is time of supply provision in respect of reverse charge mechanisms. Now I presume most of the people will be accustomed to what exactly forward charge mechanism is and what exactly reverse charge mechanism is. Just to give a brief, for in any indirect taxation law, basically tax gets paid by a person who sells or who supplies a particular commodity or a service. Now this normal tendency in indirect tax law, wherein tax gets paid and collected by supplier or a seller, is called forward charge mechanism. Now it is a simple concept which is applicable throughout in any indirect taxation law. In addition to it, there is another concept called reverse charge, which is exactly opposite of it. In reverse charge mechanism, typically what happens is that a person who receives, a person who buys a particular commodity or procures a particular service, he is supposed to discharge GST or that tax. So typically what I have done is that I have classified time of supply provisions first in a bucket which relates to forward charge mechanism, and second in a bucket which relates to reverse charge mechanism. So let's try to simplify this and try to correlate it with provisions. Now let me just have a look at whether any messages are there in chats. Okay. So we'll start with the time of supply for goods. So this is the first provision which we can consider. So as I said, there are two sections, section 12 and 13. Section 12 talks about time of supply provisions related to goods, and 13 talks about time of supply provisions related to services. So typically section 12.2 talks about time of supply pertaining to goods, which says that time of supply for supply of goods will be earlier of following. Now the first subsection says that the time of supply for goods will be date of issue of invoice or last date to issue invoice under section 31. So basically whichever is earlier. This is the first parameter or first event which is required to be checked, and second event which is not quite relevant now. Yeah. I think somebody has unmuted the mic. Please mute your mic. Okay. So if we talk about time of supply of goods for goods, then in that first parameter is checking the what is date of invoice. In 99.99 transactions, the date of invoice will be considered as time of supply in goods. For example, if I am a supplier of commodities, I am a supplier of goods, and if I raise an invoice on 25th of March, then 25th of March will be considered as time of supply, and GST pertaining to that invoice will be paid along with March return on 20th of April. Now in that, there is a specific proviso which says that if invoice is not issued within a particular period, so that is section 31. So I have specifically added in white what exactly section 31 says. So basically section 31 talks about what is the last date to issue an invoice under GST law for goods. So what it says is that invoice needs to be issued on the date of removal of goods. So when basically I am removing commodities from my factory or my premises, I am supposed to raise an invoice. The second scenario which section 31 covers is date of delivery of goods or making available goods to the customer. Now this scenario is quite, we can say it's not something which is quite normal in the industry. Now if you typically consider this scenario of date of delivery of goods or making available goods. So what it says is that, let's say I'm a auto manufacturing company. I'm a company who typically, let's take this example, that I am a company who manufacture auto parts. So automobile industry related parts are manufactured by me. So as you know, in automobile industry, molds are being used for a particular model of a car. A particular mold needs to be used. So let's say I am a company which manufacture molds as well as components. So it's pretty obvious. Let's say one of the automobile company comes to me and says that you kindly supply the molds also to me and components as well. So it's pretty obvious that in my factory, I'll manufacture the mold first of all, so that I can manufacture the components. The moment I'll be manufacturing the molds, it's pretty clear that I'll be using those molds in my factory itself to manufacture the components. Now in this scenario, actually molds will not be delivered to the customer. I'll manufacture them in my factory. I'll keep them in my factory itself. So what exactly it means is that I'll be actually making those molds available to the customer, that he can use it the way he wants. So this scenario under section 31 is quite, you can say it's not quite relevant, it's not quite normal, which is applicable in industry. In 99% of the cases, the date of removal of goods is the date on which we typically issue the invoice. So for deciding time of supply for goods, you can consider the taxable event is date of issue of invoice, except few of the cases wherein section 31 mandates that there is a particular last date to issue invoice. Because in all the cases, the date of removal of goods, when it involves movement of goods, is considered as the date of issue of invoice. The another proviso which was there in GST law, it's still there. However, an exemption has been provided that when GST law was introduced, it was introduced that in case of goods, GST will be payable even on advances. So that means even if I haven't delivered the goods, I haven't raised the invoice, if I receive advance payment from a particular customer, then I'm supposed to discharge GST. However, in goods, in any of the state laws, till now, there was no provision wherein advances were taxed. Considering this, lot of representations were made, and ultimately department and government provided an exemptions for goods. So from 15th November 2017 onwards, for goods on advances, GST is not applicable, as a specific exemption has been provided in time of supply. So for goods, I think everyone is clear that in all the cases, the date of issue of invoice, the moment I issue an invoice, I raise an invoice, I can say that I need to consider that as a taxable event and I need to discharge GST on it. I hope everyone is clear with this. Okay. Now let's talk about what is the time of supply for services. Now, typically services are concerned, as I already told you, in services, the entire mechanism or the entire time of supply provisions has been adopted from point of taxation rules in erstwhile service tax law. So in time of supply services, section 13(2) talks about what is the time of supply in case of forward charge mechanism for services. Now it says the time of supply for services shall be earlier of the following. So there are basically, you can consider there are three parameters for time of supply of services. The first parameter says that the date of invoice, the date of issue of invoice will be considered as time of supply. So basically there are certain provisions in GST law. So basically section 31 read with rule 47. It says that whenever a service has been provided within 30 days for most of the assessees and within 45 days for financial institutions and NBFCs, invoice needs to be raised. Obviously, I have considered certain examples which we'll discuss on this. So it's pretty clear, it's pretty simple that if I am a chartered accountant providing a consultancy services, let's say I have consulted someone, one of my client, on 25th of March, I have given him the final report that this is the final written opinion from me. It means that I have concluded my service and I have provided my service on 25th of March. So law says that the moment service has been provided, within 30 days, invoice should be raised. So if I have issued invoice within 30 days from 25th of March, so typically till 24th of April, if I can say that I have issued an invoice, then date of invoice, the date of issue of invoice will be considered as time of supply. So in this example, if 25th of March is the date of provision of service, I have issued invoice on, let's say, 20th of April within 30 days. Then 20th of April will be considered as time of supply, and liability pertaining to this invoice will be paid along with April GSTR 3B return, which will be on 20th of May. Now the second parameter is that what if I don't raise my invoice within prescribed time limit of 30 or 45 days? If I don't issue my invoice within 30 days, then date of provision of service, the date on which I have provided the service, will be considered as time of supply. So in this example, I have given the report on 25th of March. If I raise my invoice on 30th of April, then I cannot say 30th of April is the time of supply. The time of supply will be 25th of March, and liability pertaining to this transaction will be paid along with March return. And the third parameter is advances. So let's say before providing service or before raising invoice, I receive advances from my customers, then that will be considered as time of supply. And in this, minor exemption of 1,000 rupees has been given, which I don't think so for most of the service sector, it will not be quite relevant. So you can consider there are three parameters in time of supply provisions related to services. If we sum up, if I raise my invoice within 30 days or 45 days from the date of provision of service, then date of invoice. If I don't issue invoice within 30 days or 45 days as per section 31, then date of provision of service will be considered as time of supply. And if I raise advance, then date of advance receipt shall be considered as time of supply. Now this, I think I have thoroughly explained. However, I have considered just these three scenarios. Let's say there is a consultant, there is a GST practitioner. A client comes to him and says that GST registration needs to be taken. So he completes all the formalities, and final GST registration certificate for that client is received on 10th of Feb, as already mentioned in this slide. So what we can first of all conclude is that 10th of Feb is the date on which we can say service has been provided. Now let's take first scenario. Now we can say that the GST practitioner raised the invoice on 5th of March. He forgot to raise the invoice, and ultimately after getting GST registration certificate on 10th of Feb, he raised invoice on 5th of March. Then he received fees on 10th of April. So first thing which we need to check is that whether he has raised invoice within prescribed time limit of 30 days. The answer to this question is yeah, he has raised the invoice within 30 days. He has raised the invoice of 5th of March. So considering time of supply provisions, the time of supply will be 5th of March, which is the taxable event and taxable date. Now let's consider scenario 2, that the practitioner was quite lazy in raising the invoice. He completely forgot to raise the invoice. And after providing service on 10th of Feb, he raised the invoice on 15th of March. Now, since he has not raised the invoice within prescribed time limit, it's pretty obvious that as per provisions, the date of provision of service will be considered as time of supply. So basically 10th of February will be considered as time of supply, and GST will be discharged along with February GST or 3B return. And now third scenario is, let's say he has received an advance. So he, before providing service itself on 10th of February, the practitioner received the fees as advance on 31st of Jan itself. So 31st of January will be considered as time of supply, the date of receipt of advance. So typically these three scenarios will cover up all the three parameters of time of supply provisions related to services. The first scenario, since invoice was issued within time limit, the date of invoice was the time of supply. In second scenario, since invoice was not issued within prescribed time limit, the time of supply was date of provision of service. And in third scenario, since advance was received, the date of advance receipt was considered as time of supply. So I hope till here everyone is clear. Let me just check whether I have any chats or something. I'll obviously address in queries section. Okay. Now the third scenario, this is with regards to forward charge mechanism, is time of supply pertaining to vouchers. Now vouchers is something, it is quite litigative. Vouchers, as you all know, there are certain Amazon vouchers, HDFC gift cards. So a lot of vouchers are issued which can be used afterwards to buy a particular commodity or procure a particular service. Now this is a specific scenario covered in time of supply services. So first of all, in GST law, there are various advance rulings and case laws, and quite litigative matters are there, wherein few are of the view that vouchers are not at all taxable. So let's keep that aside. As of now, let's presume that vouchers, the supply of voucher is a taxable commodity or it's a taxable service. So there are two sections, section 12(4) pertaining to vouchers related to goods and section 13(4) pertaining to voucher related to services. So in supply of voucher, these are specific provisions. So earlier provisions which we decided are generic ones, and this is a specific provision which is applicable to vouchers. Now typically in vouchers, there are two different classifications. Now if we look at the first classification, it talks about specific vouchers. So what I mean is that, let's say I decided to gift one of my friends something. So I decided, I want to gift him a watch, but I'm not sure that which watch exactly he'll like. So I went to the Titan showroom and I bought a voucher worth rupees 10,000 from Titan showroom. Now, what this voucher says is that you can use this voucher within next 6 months and only to buy a watch from any of the Titan outlets. So it's pretty clear that this voucher at the time of purchasing or at the time of issuance, it has been identified that this voucher can only be used to buy a particular commodity, that is a watch. So in such types of vouchers, since commodity has been identified, the date of issue of vouchers will be considered as time of supply. So let's say if I buy this voucher on 10th of April, then the date of issuance of voucher, that is April, 10th of April, will be considered as time of supply as a taxable event, and liability pertaining to this voucher needs to be discharged by Titan with the GST return of April for the month of April. I hope everyone is clear. This is the first type of voucher, which are specific vouchers wherein a particular commodity is identifiable, that this voucher can be used only for a particular type of transaction. Now, second scenario is a particular voucher which is a generic one. So it's like, I'll go to Shopper Stop, and in Shopper Stop I buy a voucher worth rupees 10,000, and using this Shopper Stop voucher I can buy any commodity in Shopper Stop. It can be a perfume, it can be a watch, it can be a camera, anything. So in this scenario, when I purchase a voucher, it is not decided that which commodity I can buy. So in such types of vouchers, the time of supply is date of redemption of voucher. So let's say I bought a voucher on 10th of April and I gift it to someone else, and my friend actually redeems it somewhere in June. Then till June, till the time that voucher has not been redeemed, the time of supply provision will not be invoked, and time of supply will be considered as a taxable event in June, and liability pertaining to that voucher will be discharged by Shopper Stop along with GSTR 3B return for the month of June. So I hope everyone is clear about time of supply of vouchers. Now, since I said that there are two buckets, the first one was with regards to forward charge mechanism. The second bucket, which I'll be talking about, is reverse charge mechanism. Now, as far as reverse charge mechanism is concerned, a specific provision pertaining to goods is there, a specific provision pertaining to services is there. As far as goods are concerned, the section 12(3) of the CGST Act talks about time of supply provisions related to reverse charge mechanism pertaining to goods. Now, as per this provision, typically there are three parameters. That what it says is that wherever any commodity on which GST is payable on reverse charge mechanism, the time of supply, the point of taxation, will be earlier of following three events. The first event is that the date when I receive the goods. The second event is the date when I make the payment to the actual supplier. And third event is 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. Now it's quite simple. Let's take an example in cashew nuts. In cashew nuts, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. I'm a factory in any of the suburbs of, I am a factory who is actually into processing of cashew nuts, who packages cashew nuts and sells it in the open market. Now let's say I buys it from a local dealer and he issues an invoice on 10th of April and I receive the goods on same day, on 10th of April itself. Then ideally I'll be able, the GST on that particular transaction, the time of supply will be considered as 10th of April, as I have received the goods and I have also received the invoice and I have not yet made the payment, because the earlier of these three events is, so typically we can say date of receipt of goods and date of issue of invoice are similar. Now let's consider that I have received the goods on 10th of April. I have got the invoice also on 10th of April and I made up the payment of that transaction on 1st of May. Now still I'll consider earlier of the three. If I have done an advance payment, then date of payment will be considered as time of supply. So in goods, it's pretty clear that let's not complicate it. There are three events: date of receipt of goods, date of payment, and 30 days from the date of invoice. Whichever is earlier will be considered as time of supply. So 30 days from date of invoice is quite a special provision which says that if I have received the goods, I have received the invoice. And if I don't make payment within 30 days, then I need not wait for date of payment. then the date, the 30 days from the date of invoice will be considered as a time of supply. Now, similar is the provision as far as reverse charge mechanism services are concerned. In reverse charge mechanism, the time of supply of services is determined on the basis of two parameters. In goods, there were three parameters, wherein date of receipt of goods was an additional parameter. In services, there are just two parameters, the date of payment and 60 days from the date of invoice. In goods, it's 30 days. In services, it's 60 days. Now, it's pretty clear. Now, most of the people, while practicing GST or while doing compliances in industry of GST, people consider this date of payment is the taxable event for reverse charge mechanism. What people tend to do is that most of the people ignore 60 days from the date of invoice provision. Now, it's quite relevant even from GST audit perspective. Let's say in most of the corporates, in some of the corporates, it takes time, the turnaround time to, because there are multiple departments, from the time a particular department gets an invoice from the service provider and it gets cleared by the corporate finance team, there is a time lag. So in some of the cases, what happens is that a particular invoice gets paid after 60 days from the date of invoice, because sometimes the invoice is issued by the supplier. Then after 15-20 days, it actually gets received by a particular department in the corporate. And then probably by the time that invoice is paid, 60 days time limit is expired. So typically as consultants or as GST auditors, what we do is that we tend to see date of payment, we just check that and we move ahead. So one thing needs to be considered is that in all reverse charge mechanism transactions, it needs to be checked what is the date of invoice. So if the date of the difference between date of invoice and date of payment is not more than 60 days, then it's fine. But if the date of payment is more than 60 days from the date of invoice, then the date of invoice needs to be considered as time of supply. And accordingly, there will be certain interest implications. So for example, if on 1st of January, a particular invoice was raised and I have made the payment of that transaction on 31st of May after 60 days, typically what will happen is that a particular client or a particular dealer will pay the GST liability pertaining to that invoice along with March return. Whereas as per time of supply provisions, since 60 days have been expired, the date of expiry of 60 days shall be considered as time of supply. So typically it will be 29th of Feb, we can see Feb end will be considered as time of supply, and GST ideally should have been discharged along with Feb GSTR 3B return. So I hope you guys are clear till here. Now, as far as reverse charge mechanism pertaining to services are concerned, there is a specific provision, there is a special provision which we usually tend to ignore. Now, there is a specific proviso to section 13(3). Now, as far as this proviso is concerned, what this proviso says is that in case of associated enterprises. Now, what do you mean by associated enterprises? The associated enterprises, as per GST law, associated enterprises are those enterprises which are related parties as per Income Tax Act. A typical example is a holding or subsidiary company, employees of the company, directors of the company. So these are all such transactions, all such entities which are considered as associated enterprises of a particular dealer. So there is a special provision in associated enterprises, which is usually ignored by most of the consultants. Why I'm emphasizing more on this is because in such transactions, the stake, the interest exposure can be quite higher. Now let's take an example of a company. Let's take an example of an Indian IT company. Now, as you all know, most of the Indian IT companies are having their branches in other countries. Most of the companies are having holding companies or subsidiary companies in abroad. Now, in such scenario, what this proviso talks about is that in case of associated enterprises which are located outside India, so this proviso is not applicable to a holding or subsidiary company or an associated enterprise which is located in India. This is a provision applicable to those associated enterprises which are located outside India. So time of supply in respect of such services shall be earlier of two events. First is date of payment, and second is date of entry in books of account of the recipient. So what it says is that, as you all know, in case of associated enterprises, typically let's carry on with the example of IT company only. That there is an IT company in India who is having a holding company in US, let's say. Now, typically what happens, the US company has deputed few of the employees in India. So few of the US company employees are working for Indian subsidiary. US organization is also providing or incurring certain expenses for Indian entity. Let's say they are providing for consultants, or they are, they are paying for certain server hosting charges in US. So let's say the US company has incurred expenses worth 2 crores for Indian subsidiary company. So typically what happens is that on the basis of accrual concept, since it's a related party transaction, the US company does not actually raises invoice on Indian company on a recurring basis. So what happens is that at the time of audit finalization or on year end on 31st of March, while while considering certain incomes on accrual basis, the Indian company will consider that 2 crore rupees as an accrued income. So what they'll do is that they'll book the income in their books of accounts as receivable from US company. The moment they do it, what we can say is that the entry has been taken in Indian recipient, the Indian IT company's books, that 2 crores worth amount is payable to US company. So that is the income of the US company, and that 2 crores amount needs to be reimbursed to the US company. So I'll be booking that as an expense in my Indian books of accounts. So even though I might make payment in next financial year, so let's say even if I on 31st March 2020, I have considered it as an expense, I have accrued that expense, I'll pay it somewhere in June 2020. So most of the people tend to ignore this provision and they discharge GST liability in June 2020. Whereas what this provision says is that since it's an associated enterprise which is located outside India, ideally we need to consider time of supply as 31st of March, when this transaction has been actually accrued in books of accounts. And let me tell you guys, this provision is quite critical from any of the GST auditor or consultant perspective, as this transaction or this provision, if ignored in case of related party transactions, it can have quite high exposure and ramifications, because you can consider most of the accruals with related to foreign related parties are in crores usually in most of the big corporates. So in such scenario, this transaction should not be ignored. It's quite relevant to consider this transaction. So I believe as far as time of supply for services under reverse charge mechanism is considered, you guys are quite clear as far as this typical transaction is concerned. So just to sum up, what we can say is that as far as time of supply provisions are concerned, time of supply provisions, it's a short concept as far as GST law. There are just two provisions which talks about time of supply provisions. Time of supply provisions are important first to decide an event when a particular transaction will be taxed. That will be the date on which we can consider that a particular transaction will be considered in that month's return, so that due date can be determined. What we can say is that the rate of GST which is applicable on that particular time of supply date will be considered as GST rate, applicable GST rate. So it is important to decide due date. It is important to decide taxable event. If GST is not discharged on that time of supply date and it is discharged afterwards, then there will be interest exposure. The time of supply provisions can be broadly classified into two categories. One is pertaining to forward charge mechanism, second pertaining to reverse charge mechanism. Forward charge mechanism is the first bucket, wherein there are two sections which talks about forward charge mechanism time of supply related to goods. Second, forward charge mechanism related to services. The second bucket which talks about reverse charge mechanism, the time of supply for goods or services wherein reverse charge mechanism is applicable. And there are specific provisions related to time of supply of vouchers. Now vouchers is something different because that particular taxable event or that commodity as a supply or not in itself is litigative in most of the international taxation laws also. That's the reason a specific provision has been introduced for time of supply of vouchers. Apart from this, there are certain petty time of supply provisions, like there is one typical provision which talks about if I have a specific clause in my contract that I'll be recovering interest if my customer does not pay within a particular period of time. So basically interest, if I'm gonna levy certain penalties or interest or any charges from my customers, wherein if he doesn't pay within a particular period of time, so let's say I have raised an invoice worth 1 crore, and if he doesn't pay, I'll be charging interest at the rate of 12%. The moment I say that I'll be recovering that from my customer, first of all, from GST perspective, it becomes a taxable supply. The moment I say it's a taxable supply, I need to understand what's the taxable event, what's the time of supply. So there is just one specific provision which talks about any of the charges, interest, penalties levied in respect of a supply. So in that case, the date on which those charges or penalties have been received by me, that will be considered as time of supply. So as I already said, time of supply is quite a short concept, however, an important and relevant concept in GST, because till the time we don't understand this concept, as an auditor, as a consultant, or as a dealer, we will not be able to define during which period we need to consider it as a taxable liability and along with which return the liability will be discharged. So I think that's it from my side, because I tried to keep it quite short and crisp. I have already summarized and I have not tried to complicate it by way of going through provisions. And anyways, I'll be sharing this PPT with each one of you after this session. So I think, Mahesh sir, we can go ahead with the queries.
Yeah, there are two queries in the chat box. So can you take up that? One is regarding RCM.
Yeah.
Which services RCM applicable?
Okay.
And one was what if we don't buy anything but we have a voucher? First case.
Okay, so let's take first query, that for which services RCM is applicable. So first of all, on which services RCM is applicable, first of all, it is not something which is relevant to time of supply provisions. It is on taxability, whether a particular transaction is first of all supply or not.
We are having separate lecture on RCM.
Okay, so what I can
RCM,
just in
we
short,
are having separate lecture fully. RCM
okay.
And yes, we'll take up that RCM and.
So what I can say is that there is a specific notification which will be obviously discussed in your RCM lecture, wherein you will be able to understand all commodities and services on which reverse charge mechanism is applicable. Now the second query, as you said, that if I actually purchase a voucher and if I don't buy something, then whether that will be considered a taxable event or not. Now that's what I was talking about when I started with the voucher. First of all, there are quite litigation matters as far as vouchers are concerned. There is one class of people who says that vouchers are nothing but a consideration. Vouchers are like currencies which can be used to buy a particular commodity or to procure a particular service at a later date. So there is one set of schools which says that ideally at the time of buying or purchasing a voucher, it's not supply at all. So if we go with that school ideology, then what we can say is that since it's not a supply, then obviously GST will not be payable and question of times of supply does not arise. Now there is another school which says that yes, the moment you buy a voucher, it's quite clear that that voucher will be used as long as, see, most of the vouchers are non-refundable vouchers. So the moment you say that a particular voucher will be used at a future date to buy a particular commodity or to procure a particular service, it has to be taxed. So voucher has been considered, rather we can say that this is a deeming provision which says that voucher is a taxable supply and GST needs to be levied. Now in that, in time of supply on a fair basis, they have just concluded and classified it into two categories. That when I'm able to determine whether that voucher can be used to buy a particular commodity. So if I know that I can buy a particular commodity using that voucher, then issue of voucher will be taxable event. And when anyways, the second time of supply provision says that even though voucher is a taxable supply, if I don't know what exactly can be bought using that voucher, then whenever that voucher is actually redeemed to buy something, it will be considered as a taxable event. And that will be the point of taxation, or that will be the time of supply when GST will be levied. Okay. Now, I think there is one query, RCM on services time of supply. What if I consider date of invoice as time of supply? As long as you have not made the advance payment in respect of a particular invoice, considering date of invoice as a taxable event as a time of supply is a conservative call. There is no harm in considering a particular time of supply as date of invoice. But do remember that if advance payment has been made against that invoice, then date of payment is an earlier event which needs to be considered as a time of supply. Okay, there is one query. What will be the time of supply in case of mobilization advance received for civil contractors? Purchase of plant and machinery. Now, as far as civil contractors are concerned, now, first of all, let me tell you, if we take example of only purchase of plant and machinery, then plant and machinery is a commodity. It is classified as goods. The moment we say that it's a transaction of supply pertaining to a goods or a commodity, the time of supply regarding advance, there is a specific exemption. So if we have received advances, then GST will not be payable. The actual issue of date of invoice will be considered. But since in this query, they have specifically mentioned that civil contractors, we need to understand that civil contracting, it will fall into the category of works contract, and works contract has been specifically defined as a service as far as GST law is concerned. So considering that, if a civil contractor is typically executing a civil contract, which is a works contract, and if he receives advance, then GST will be payable on the date of receiving advance. So that will be the time of supply. Okay. Now there is a query. What happens when customer pays less due to deficiency of service? Can credit note be passed, or the earlier invoice issued become final and tax liability becomes final? First of all, the date on which you issue an invoice, since it's a time of supply, is date of issuance of invoice. What we can say is that yes, GST as on that date will be payable. Now, because of deficiency, obviously there are specific provisions in GST law which allows the supplier to issue credit note in case of deficiency in services. If we are in a position to identify that deficiency is there, then obviously you can issue a credit note, and the date of issuance of credit note will be the date in that month GST liability will be reduced. So what I can say is that if it's the same month, it doesn't make any difference. My invoice is also raised in April month. I have negotiated with the customer has said that services are deficient, and same month if I issued a credit note, anyways it doesn't make any difference, because in same month everything is adjusted. But let's say credit note has been issued in next month, then in the month in which date invoice has been issued, the liability has to be discharged on gross invoice value, and in next month liability will be reduced. Next is there is a query, something related to lockdown. One of my supplier from Jaipur has booked the material and rest 2 invoices in the month of March, but still I have not received the material or invoice due to lockdown. So in this case, when I have to take credit of IGST in the March or April or May, because lockdown is indefinite? First of all, I think your query is related to ITC, and I can just answer in one line that since you have not received goods, you will not be in a position to take credit, because one of the condition to avail ITC is that you should have actually received the goods. So even though he has issued an invoice, but since because of lockdown you have not received the commodity, you will not be able to take the credit.
Shantanu, I'll let you in. See, we have another session for ITC.
Correct.
Whichever, if queries are with relation to the type of supply, you answer that. Otherwise, let that other queries be kept pending.
Agreed.
We can take up at that session only.
Agreed. Okay, I think so. I think regarding time of supply, I don't think so I have missed any of the queries. I think, sir, if any additional queries are, what is the time of supply from sale in transit? See, typically as far as sale in transit is concerned, so what will happen is that whenever sale in transit is concerned, whenever actual invoice will be raised, that will be considered as, because as till the time I have not bought a particular commodity from someone and I haven't sold it to someone, because typically unless and until I have issued and raised an invoice, I'll not be dispatching the goods to somebody else. I can max to max send it to any of my branches. Now, if I say that my branch, my godown is in the same state, anyways, it's not a supply. So even if a particular commodity is being transited from one particular location to another location, and during this transit, if I actually sell it to somebody else and I'll be issuing an invoice on that date, then that date will be considered as sale in transit. And in this sale in transit, if you have any specific, because sale in transit is that way, it can involve multiple scenarios. So I request this user that if any complicated transaction is involved, there are more than 2-3 parties, then you can separately send that transactions to me and I'll surely help you out with that.
Thank you. I think all queries are over.
Yeah, I think yes. Chats, he has covered everything.
All queries in the chats are over.
Okay.
With this,
I request you to announce again that without name will not given the entry. Today we have we have considered that without names we have given the entries, but henceforth tomorrow onwards will not give any entry to the person whose name is not in their mobile names.
Yeah, because we are keeping everybody in waiting room. So I request everybody, because since it was rush hour, then 2 or 3 entries, I had requested everybody on the chat that they have to identify their name, because see, try to understand, this is organized by GSTPM, registered trust for GST, and more than having 60 years of existence. So I request everybody to adhere to the rules, and it is beneficial to each and every person present over here, because security aspects and data aspects of viewers is most important to all of us. And since we would like to have the security at fullest level, due to some of the views we have seen that on Zoom, especially platform. So that's why we are trying to keep this very strictly. Every time our user ID and password is going to be changed, we are not keeping ideal for all 6 meetings. With this, I thank once again to the President of GSTPM, Dinesh Tamdeji, who has gracefully started the proceedings. Always thankful to Chairman of the committee, Sunil Kushlani ji, for giving free hand to organize this event. Then all the office bearers. With this, I'm very grateful to Shantanu Bagwe, who is also the committee member and who is regularly doing various lectures. In fact, I think this GSTPM having June lecture for the first time. His first time lecture is there, and he has explained all these intricacies of time of supply very well.
Mahesh, I would interrupt.
Yeah.
We have found the gem in GSTPM, I think. For GSTPM, rather.
Yeah, he is regularly there, sir. In GSTPM, he has been to South Konkan. In Sindhudurga, he has given lectures on behalf of GSTPM. So he is really good speaker. And I'm also thankful to all more than 75 participants who were there at the time, registered in this for showing the interest. All those who have attended and registered, kindly those who are not become member of GSTPM. So after this lockdown gets over, so you please register, because there are various lectures and updates and STR and all these submission and representation made to the government from time to time for the glitches and for the difficulties. GSTPM is on the front, this one. So with this, I conclude this, and please give big light thumbs up for the Shantanu, so that he can go through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being there. Stay home, stay safe. See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nice.